Jalen Johnson just finished up one of the most absurd performances in NBA history. 31 points, 18 rebounds, 14 assists, 7 steals, 4 of 5 from 3. This is a stat line that has never been seen before in NBA history, but for Jalen Johnson, this hasn't really been anything new because he is in the middle of a breakout season right now for the Atlanta Hawks. For what feels like basically the third year in a row, Jalen Johnson is continuing to improve in basically every single aspect of the game, and this year he has taken his biggest single year improvement. Across 11 games, he is currently averaging 21 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists while making a huge leap in his efficiency. Johnson has been a force for the Atlanta Hawks and they have sorely needed him. Trae Young has missed about half of their games due to a knee injury, and Kristaps Porzingis has been on a pretty slow start as well. But despite the fact that they're missing 2 of their 3 best players, the Atlanta Hawks are sitting at 8-5, they're 4th in the Eastern Conference, and they have the 5th best defense in the NBA. Diving deeper into Johnson's stats and his recent games, he is showing clear across the board improvement, but there are a few things I want to highlight that really impress me. As a slasher, he is one of the best in the league, which is incredible when he doesn't have the benefit of an elite playmaker. Johnson is currently averaging 5 makes per game at the rim. That is good for 3rd in the entire league. However, he is also shooting 80% at the rim, which is one of the highest marks for anybody who attacks the rim this often. With this, he is also getting to the free throw line far better than before, at 4.5 attempts per game, with his actual free throw rate being 10 points higher than last year. His efficiency at the strike is also at a career best, where he is now shooting 80%. And there's quite a few ways that we see Jalen Johnson get to the basket. The first and one of the more prevalent ways is his game in transition. He's 12th in transition scoring per game, and he converts at a more than solid rate. A big part of this comes from the Atlanta Hawks being absolute steal kings. Last year, they were 2nd in the league in steals per game, and this year they rank 3rd in steals per game. In the half court, Jalen Johnson does everything you could ask out of a big forward. At 6'9", 220 pounds with a 7-foot wingspan, he is a devastating force on the way to the hoop. This allows him to do a great job at absorbing contact as well as matching up with centers and other power forwards. It's not as much as an official or a talked about stat, but Jalen Johnson is actually converting and ones at an incredible rate this season. So far, he has completed 8 and ones through 11 games, higher than any other mark in his career. It's not just slashing and getting to the line, but it's the fact that he's completing through contact. Also, something else to note that he is getting blocked a lot less on the year compared to other years, which is a pretty big improvement for him, as this was something that was noted as a weakness for him going into the league. And Johnson's ability to absorb contact, that's not a detriment on his athleticism. We've certainly seen it this year. He looks more than healthy, and we know he can throw down a poster or two, and he's got a pretty crazy vertical as well. But his best ability in the half court isn't just his insane ability to convert to the rim, but it's how he gets to the rim, as Jalen Johnson is the best cutter in the NBA. According to the league's own website, he is averaging 1.76 points per possession on cuts. That places him in the 98th percentile of all cutters. His 4 points per game off of cuts is also 10th in the entire NBA, with no player being a more efficient cutter in the league than Jalen Johnson. If you're a young hooper, especially like a wing, Jalen Johnson has got to be one of the guys that I recommend you watch, and it's for this aspect alone. I feel the backdoor cut has kind of gone wayside in the NBA, but no player uses it as well as Johnson. And despite the Hawks not having an insane playmaker, they don't have a Jokic to build their offense around, they haven't had Trae Young for a lot of time, he is still producing at an incredible rate. He's great at moving off the ball when his defender helps, he's great at reacting to the defense, or just working his way around in the dunker spot to be visible to a ball handler. This is the type of player that a coach wants. This puts a lot of pressure on the defense. An active player is a threatening player, and a threatening player is going to get the ball a lot, and they're inevitably going to score a lot. A benefit to this is that it also puts you in really good rebounding position if you cut and move around the ball a lot. Jalen Johnson for the last 3 seasons has been averaging about 1 offensive rebound per game, and just in the games that I've seen, he's also really good at putting the ball back up. Offensive rebounds like these are absolutely demoralizing to defenses, and they can really kickstart an offense when all things are struggling, so having a great offensive rebounder who can immediately put a shot back up like Jalen Johnson is huge in an offense, and it really earns its points throughout the season. Now, with the ball in his hands, Jalen Johnson, he's not an overly special offensive attacker, but he has the size and strength to bully you into the shot he wants. He doesn't really over dribble or over rely on like an inefficient isolation possession. Instead, he usually opts for a short post fade, something that's been going pretty well for him this year. And by pretty well, I of course mean a career best. So from 3 to 10 feet, he is shooting a career high 54%. That is more than keeping the defense honest, and actually it's better than some great players in the league. It's better than guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, and he's doing this on a respectable volume. Even if we just expand his game to the three-point line, we're starting to get a little bit out of his repertoire, but he's still been doing that at a career best this year. So far, Johnson is averaging about 1 made 3 per game, shooting 35%. Now, he was never touted as much of a shooter coming out of college, so him being a league average shooter, that's definitely good enough with everything else that he does. Now, it is on a low volume, but he's actually 55% for the year on catch and shoot opportunities. It's only on 20 attempts, it's a small sample size, but for reference, he shot 33% on catch and shoot attempts last year, so I can actually see him reaching a middle ground. Maybe somewhere in the high 30s, possibly even low 40s on a low amount of attempts. I think he could be a really solid catch and shoot player, and that can do just enough to make it difficult for the defense to defend him. We also see Atlanta use Jalen Johnson as a screener in a lot of pick and roll actions, and that's another thing I really like out of him. We don't see it all too often, but he is efficient, ranking in the 78th percentile. Feed him a bounce pass and give him some room to take off, and few people in the league are able to stop him. Not to mention, this brings out his passing abilities out of the short roll, and this whole time I've been talking about Jalen Johnson as a scorer. That's something he does incredibly well as, but that's not actually what he came into the league. That's not what people thought he was going to be the best at. Because from his time in Duke and when he was drafted 20th overall, he was actually touted as a point forward and basically a slashing point forward at that. And he has definitely been demonstrating this point forward aspect, and he's been just a really complete all-around player. Now, Johnson doesn't have a whole lot of basketball under his belt, relatively speaking. He played 13 games in college, and he's only played over 60 games in his NBA career once. However, when watching him on offense, he doesn't look inexperienced. He doesn't look like he's been missing a lot of time. He's not slow, but he's patient. He does a great job at keeping his head up, looking for a teammate. At 24 years old, who's missed time due to injuries, he's doing a great job showing like a veteran level understanding and just overall flow to his game. And watching him as a playmaker, it's honestly just really refreshing. Like I said, he keeps his head up, he's constantly scanning the courts, he's not just trying to score for himself. I honestly believe Jalen Johnson probably could score more per game, but instead he's choosing to make the right play and keep up his own efficiency. This could be passing out of a good shot for a great shot, kicking out of a double team, or just hitting a man on a cut. Ego does not get to Jalen Johnson, and that is something that I've been loving about him. And that also goes to his game in transition as well. He is a great transition scorer, but I think he could technically be a better transition scorer if he tried to attack more, but instead he's also a great transition playmaker. He's got a great bounce pass. In Atlanta, it's basically required that you're a good lob thrower. We see him operate as a primary distributor, sometimes bring the ball up the court, or we sometimes see him as a secondary ball handler, such as these actions out of horns. And of course, the statistics back this up as well. Jalen Johnson is currently leading the Hawks, averaging a career-high 6 assists per game while decreasing his amount of turnovers from the year prior. So I am in no way insinuating that the Atlanta Hawks are a better team without Trae Young. I still believe that he is their guy, and if they really want to have a deep run, they are going to need a lot out of Trae. However, Jalen Johnson is doing something that a lot of greats before him have done, and that is rise to the occasion and step up when his team needs him to. Currently, Jalen Johnson is leading the Atlanta Hawks in points per game, assists per game, rebounds per game. He is second in steals per game, and he is effectively the most efficient player on the court. In the 7 games that he has played without Trae Young this season, the Atlanta Hawks have gone 5-2. Johnson has averaged 22 points, 11 rebounds, 7.5 assists on an absurd 66% true shooting percentage with an average plus-minus of 7. The way he's breaking out this year is actually reminding me that of Giannis back in 2017. That season, Giannis earned his first All-Star appearance, led the Bucks to 9 more wins, made the playoffs, led all 5 major box category stats for the Bucks, and at 24 years old, that is what Jalen Johnson is doing right now. And all of this has only been talking about his offensive game. Honestly, coming into the league, Johnson was kind of a defensive specialist. As I mentioned earlier, he's got a great frame, 6'9", 220 with a 7-foot wingspan. That allows him to guard the perimeter pretty well, but he's also strong enough to match up with some bigger forwards and sometimes even centers down low. But something that Johnson does that I haven't seen a whole lot of players, especially at his age, do is that he is actually incredibly patient on the defensive end as well. Now, he's not always the quickest moving defender, and I do think that is something he could be a little bit better at, but I won't criticize somebody's defense when they also have a large offensive burden either. However, by playing defense a little bit more methodically, he's actually excellent in avoiding poor closeouts or just avoiding bad fouls. His wingspan allows him to take a step back, put his hand up to contest, and be ready to defend the drive or help a teammate. And he's really the ideal archetype of stopping the big, strong power forward. An example might be a guy like Paolo Banchero. Banchero is actually having a down season, however he had two of some of his worst performances this year against the Atlanta Hawks. In the 2 games, Paolo is averaging 16 points on 32% from the field with an offensive rating of 93. Another good example could be John Collins, who put up 9 points on 3 of 11 shooting, or Evan Mobley, who put up 14 points on 6 of 16 shooting. Basically, if you are a good inside scorer, a guy whose game is built a little bit more around muscle, you are going to struggle if you are matched up against Jalen Johnson. And of course, that's not counting the fact that Atlanta overall just has great team defense. The other thing that I love with him defensively is his hands. Like his teammate Dyson Daniels, he does a great job in generating turnovers, reading passing lanes, and forcing steals. Of course, his near 2 steals per game are a career high, but it actually puts him at 10th in the entire NBA. And I would argue in the games that I've watched, his ability to steal the ball, his quick hands, and his ability to play passing lanes, it might just be his best defensive ability. Just 2 years ago, the Atlanta Hawks were 15th in steals per game. Now they are 3rd in steals per game, and as a team, they create the 4th highest turnover percentage in the entire league. His defensive box plus minus is 6th in the entire NBA, with only players on the Thunder, Victor Wembanyama, and Nikola Jokic being ranked higher. And if we take a look at some of his cumulative advanced stats, that would include his player efficiency rating, his win shares per 48, his box plus minus, and his value over replacement player, there is a very strong argument that Jaylen Johnson is at least a top 15 level player, yet nobody is talking about him. You are probably barely even hearing his name. Jaylen Johnson is having an all-star season, possibly even an all-NBA level season. Right now, we are witnessing him in the middle of a Giannis-like breakout, and he needs to receive the attention he deserves. In a season where the Hawks have had some uncertainty with their injuries, not only has he carried Atlanta, but he has been starting to polish every single aspect of his game. That is it for this one. If you liked the video, you know what to do, and I will catch you all next time.